Yo guys, what is up? Max in our first Descendant video, and today we've got quite a bit to talk about. The devs just released a new hotfix with a fair bit of changes, but we've also got a dev Q&A. Obviously, they did like the big one a few days ago that I made like a 40-minute video on. That was them just kind of like spitballing ideas and things that are going to happen. Now we've got the actual Q&A that went down in the Discord where they were directly answering questions from community members, and we've got answers on pretty hard-hitting questions such as like, what do they plan to do to FREYNA balance-wise, in terms of like adding more crafting limits, changes that are going to be coming in Season 2, the ability to add melee weapons to the game, and a bunch of more cool stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Real quick, I am obviously not in my home setup. I'm actually on a trip to California for some work stuff that I can't talk about quite yet, but I am recording in the middle of a hotel room, so just the video quality might not be as great. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get right into it. So the first thing to talk about is they changed the cooldown for Outpost from 60 to 30 seconds. This is a great change. Something that's like, obviously pretty small change, but it's really, really nice. I've had to farm a lot of Outposts for these new weapons, the Final Masterpiece, Perforator, and it is just life-sucking. So I'm lowering that by 30 seconds is very nice, but that's not all that they're doing. So let's talk about this director's comment. With this patch note, we'd like to share the dev team's reasoning behind reducing the Outpost cooldown to 30 seconds, along with our future plans for further improvements. Based on feedbacks, we've reduced the Outpost cooldown to 30 seconds. Completely removing the delay could make Outpost farming disproportionately more efficient than infiltration operations, potentially leading to less dynamic Outpost farming. With this change, the Outpost cooldown is set to 30 seconds, allowing you to enjoy smooth gameplay while maintaining efficiency similar to that of an infiltration. This is like stage 1 is like the first thing they're doing. Stage 2 is infiltration fragment fusion reactor farming route added. We recognize that the main problem with Outposts is forcing inconvenient reward acquisition and lengthy 1-minute cooldowns leading to tedious gameplay. Agreed. To address this, we plan to enable you to farm amorphous materials not only in Outposts but also during infiltration operations. This update will allow you to choose between the Outpost fragment fusion reactor or infiltration fragment fusion reactor farming paths, enabling farming without relying on sharing. We aim to implement this change early in Season 2 and will provide details as soon as the schedule is finalized. Stage 3 is an Outpost rework. We plan to rework Outposts. Our plans to rework Outposts are still under discussion. Following the addition of the new farming route, Infiltration Operation Fragment Fusion Reactor, we want to keep our options open for a variety of improvements. Our goal is to completely overhaul the role and gameplay of Outposts, aiming to improve them so that they become more engaging content with continuous battles. We expect this change to lead to an increase in participation in infiltration operations. Additionally, to resolve the issue of long matchmaking times in infiltration operations, we've made plans to introduce a random matchmaking feature. With this feature, you'll be able to earn rewards for completing the selected infiltration operation, while the dungeon itself will be randomly matched. The goal is to reduce matchmaking times and provide pleasant multiplayer experience. We're preparing to implement the random matchmaking system in Season 2 update. Besides improving the farming route for amorphous materials with the addition of the infiltration operation fragment fusion reactor route, we're also aiming to make efficiency improvements to farming as well as to make it more engaging. So there's a few things here that are like very interesting. One, I'm not going to be honest, like I'm sure we'll learn more about it in the future, but I'm not totally clear on what they mean by the ability to like infiltration operation fragment fusion reactor farming. I don't know if they're going to be putting something else in infiltration operations to get the amorphous materials, because obviously you get rewarded at the end. Maybe you'll be able to get rewarded them in the middle, or as you're playing. Maybe it's just going to be an additional reward. I do think that this like idea of like random matchmaking dungeons so that you can get the things that you want but not have to queue, like you can kind of just queue with anyone, is a really great one, especially because, to be very honest, the game's player base is not what it once was, and so implementing a feature that makes matchmaking more streamlined is going to be really good. If the player base does stay, honestly, a bit smaller, it'll be more easy to find players to play with, and obviously with a live service game, for ensuring its longevity, if it becomes impossible to find players to play with, that's going to hurt everyone. So I think that's a good step in the right direction there. Next, we get to some UI and UX changes. Basically, the big thing here is that you can now change your module settings after you complete an infiltration operation or a void intercept battle. So if you do a dungeon and you're like, I was on the wrong build, I'm going to swap, you can swap and be matchmaking. You don't have to go back to Albion. Same thing with void intercept bosses. If you're fighting Gluttony, you get a kill or you fail, and you want to change something, maybe you want to add a different mod, you can just do that and then re-queue. You don't have to go back to Albion. So good changes there. There's some miscellaneous changes here. In addition, they're like removing the hero landing animation. If you didn't know, if you jumped from a really high height and you didn't click any inputs, you would smack down on the ground and have like 2 seconds where you just couldn't do anything. You could like shoot or melee or do any action when impacting with the ground, and it would cancel the hero landing animation, but they're just removing it altogether. There are a bunch of like bug fixes having to do with the like special operation defense missions that just like were not quite working and enemies were being buggy in them. So all of those things are fixed. Next, we get to weapon and module changes. There's like not really any like balance changes, like direct balance changes here, mainly like performance changes, which, for example, the sweeping squad module for general rounds and special rounds has been updated. The attack up effect of the module when defeating an enemy has been adjusted so that instead of being a reset, only the duration of the effect will reset. I can't hop on the game right now to test that, but I'm assuming it means you're going to lose 1 stack at a time rather than all of your stacks, which would be pretty nice. They do have some changes to the Albion Cavalry and the final masterpiece, mainly having to do with the ricochets and elemental effects not quite working or displaying properly. So those are all changes, but not like balance changes. Like the weapons aren't going to really be better. And they also did some changes to the Smithereens and Piercing Light, where their critical hit rates should now be displayed as changing when you're doing the things with them. Like if you're landing all your shots with the Smithereens, you'll actually should be able to see that your crit rate is increasing rather than being displayed as fixed. Next up, they fixed some issues with research timers not working properly. There was an issue. People were like, hey, is it supposed to take 1,333 days for this thing to craft? It was just like a visual bug. Those should be fixed. And also the shop changes. They've done some changes for they're fixing the descriptions of some of the emotes. And also they fixed the like preview image for the Twisted Worship set in the shop. Now that we're done with the hotfix, we can talk about the Q&A. Now, there was a lot of answers to the Q&A. I'm not going to be going through all of them because a lot of them, honestly, were just repeats of, people asking questions that they've kind of already answered or addressed. But I did want to pick out some of the bigger ones. And I will also leave a link to the Discord of the First Descendant if you want to check out and read through everything that there is. But I will be highlighting the most important ones, at least in my opinion. So to start, we've got a response to a few things here. I did make a video basically showcasing how Albion had changed, and they said that we're sorry to hear that you didn't like the changes to Albion. We've renewed it with a more sci-fi feel and have worked to improve its quality. We'll also add changes between day and night. While we don't plan to revert to the previous Albion, it may evolve or have new elements added depending on future content. And then they also address the open world colossuses. Open world colossuses are currently just an idea with no concrete plans yet. So, my kind of theory that it was going to be coming, but it wasn't coming yet because of like story reasons and lore reasons is completely debunked. They just do not have any plans for open world colossuses at the moment, which personally I think is a bit of a shame. But I do hope, they do kind of look into maybe making more unique arenas for the colossuses. They don't need to be out in the open world, but if we could get some themed environments for the boss fights, like fighting Pyromaniac in a lava area or Dead Bride on an icy mountain cliff or something like that, I think would be really cool and more interesting because, if the game is out for 3 years and every single fight is fighting in like blank slate the void, I think it's going to get a little tiresome. And then they also do say that we have plans to add new regions, although it's too early to provide details at this time. Awesome there. I was really hoping for some new regions, and that's kind of the main one there. The next comment had to do with melee weapons, where the director says, reworking melee attacks is something I'm very eager to do. I would love to create scenes where players can take down Vergus with a primal, powerful melee weapon. While this is currently a low priority topic, I believe it's a content area that requires a rework to enhance its quality. This sounds awesome. Obviously, it looks like we might get some melee stuff down the road. Definitely not going to be coming in season 2. I think melee just feels terrible in the game right now. So I wouldn't want there to be a focus on it right now because just, if you've hit that melee button, it's just pretty awkward to use. But if they reworked it to make it more fluid and then made it a part of our kit, like a dynamic option for damage, I don't think the game needs to be like Warframe-esque where you could just kill everything with melee, but it be a part of our kit, and maybe something we could lean into with something with like a Descendant that has some more melee abilities. Could be really, really cool, and I'd love to see that in the future. Next, we get a bit of an answer about like increasing research capacity, where the director says that we have not yet considered increasing the number of items that can be researched simultaneously beyond 5. As new content is introduced, the amount of enhancement materials that need to be researched may increase, so we'll review with the development team if it's possible to slightly increase the research capacity based on master rank. I think that's a great direction to go. It's something that I suggested in my wish list for this game. I really do think that you need a system where you can craft more things based on your master rank. One, it's going to reward players for their dedication and time to the game, but also, once again, this game's only been out for a few months. If the game's out for 2 years and you've got people joining in and the new player experience and they're getting time gated by only being able to craft 5 things at a time, it's going to take them so much longer to catch up to players that have been playing the game a long time. And so giving us an avenue to be able to craft more things at a time would be great, not only for dedicated players, but also new players getting into the game that are going to try to catch up to take on the new content, the new endgame that'll be added in future seasons. So I really do hope that they implement that and implement that sooner rather than later, because I really do think it's something that the game needs right now. Next, we get a response to a pretty hard question, and that is, are there any plans to nerf overpowered characters like FREYNA or Bunny? And the director says this is indeed a challenging issue. The development team takes a very cautious and conservative stance when it comes to nerfing characters that players love. However, we believe that FREYNA requires some review and discussion, and we are closely monitoring the community's discussion on this topic. The issue with FREYNA lies in her skill mechanic that allows infinite spreading. This can reduce the engagement of other players in multiplayer and complicate balance adjustments for more challenging content. The development team observed that using 3 FREYNA characters in level 160 battles made the content significantly easier compared to other Descendants. If we do adjust FREYNA, our goal is to not simply weaken her, but to modify the infinite spread mechanics so that in more difficult content, she can play harmoniously with other Descendants. Adjusting the performance of an already released character requires great caution, so we'll carefully listen to that community's opinion. I think this is a cautious and a good answer. It sounds like, honestly, they really haven't nerfed any characters. In terms of direct nerfs, everyone was crying about Bunny being too strong, and they haven't done anything to nerf Bunny. But in the meta, they've kind of just made content and things that, she's not as good for. And FREYNA is the big difference with FREYNA, in my opinion, between FREYNA and Bunny, is that FREYNA is a top-tier bossing character and a top-tier mobbing character, where Bunny is only a top-tier mobbing character. She has a weakness, which is her single-target boss damage, where FREYNA does not have really any weaknesses. It's not like she's a squishy glass cannon either. She just does it all, and so I do think that they should look into her. I'm curious to how you guys would address this. In my opinion, I don't think they need to there's a lot of things that they could adjust. I think what they pointed out is definitely a bit of an issue in that her infinite spreading is where you can cast an ability on one side of the map and it will literally go to the other. I love that about her, but I think there should set a range that it can transfer, but I think they should probably set a max range of where it can transfer from its initial cast to other ways, as in it has a range, it can spread, but from where you cast its initial ability, it can't spread more than I don't know, 100 meters or something like that. I don't know what the exact answer is, but I do think it's a little crazy that you can cast an ability year one and it will just spread as long as there's enemies. It'll just infinitely. Next we get an answer to a question that they've kind of answered before, but I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's really important. And that is, someone asked, are there plans regarding the ultimate Descendant system and like kind of building a normal character and having that investment transfer over to ultimates? And the director says, yes, we're discussing various options and considering a way to transfer some of the progression from regular Descendants to their ultimate versions. Once a specific plan is decided, we will share the details. So it sounds like that's definitely something that they are going to implement. Just how they're going to implement it, they're not quite sure. I think this is, once again, another change that needs to happen in the game sooner rather than later, because people are just afraid to build into their normal, regular Descendants because, one, they don't know if that progress is going to get rewarded, and two, it feels like they're wasting their time building out that Descendant when they don't know when an ultimate is going to come. Warframe has this, but Warframe's schedule for when the ultimates are going to come out is a lot more like structured. Like, you kind of know which is going to be the next like prime Warframe coming out typically. And also Warframe's a lot easier to invest into like non-primes. For example, like you could have a full prime build in Warframe with only using 1 or 2 formas on a character versus the first Descendant. You need like 6 to 8 to really like make a build. And so like the level of investment in the first Descendant is just way heavier than it is in Warframe, and it's way more grindy. And so I do think this is something that they need to look at. I think a big thing that they should do is reward some of your investment on that character, or maybe make that investment way easier. I was originally thinking like, oh, you know, maybe for each catalyst that you invested into the normal Descendant, you could like infuse that normal Descendant into the ultimate, and you would just get more XP like per like catalyst that you put in. So maybe it'd be like 10% XP per catalyst, so that you could level up and catalyze that Descendant way easier. But XP is not really an issue anymore. It's so easy to get XP now that we can level to level 40 in like 15 minutes. The bigger issue is the mats to build the catalyst, the crafting times. So I think that's what should be rewarded. Maybe at least like half, like 50% of the catalysts that you get or that you put into your normal, you just get to assign slots on your ultimate. Like you could just use the normal and infuse it into the ultimate, and then however many catalysts you used on your normal or your normal Descendant, you would get half of those as just slots that you could allocate once you build the ultimate. I think that would be cool. Obviously, like it could be 100%, it could be 75, but I do think there needs to be some reward for investment on normal Descendants so that people play more of the characters. Because honestly, from what I'm seeing as someone who makes build videos, is a build video for an ultimate Descendant will get double the amount of views as a build video for a non-ultimate, because people just simply aren't interested in building non-ultimate characters. And the last Q&A question that I'm going to leave y'all with is that PD Lee said that all Descendant swimsuits is coming next summer, but in the meantime, we'll be creating even more awesome skins to show you. For now, please look forward to the new skin reveal next weekend. So getting new skins next weekend, but confirmed that all Descendants are getting swimsuits. I hope that means Kyle and Ajax as well. But yeah, that is something that they answered. So yeah, just so you know. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch y'all in the next one. Let me know your thoughts down below on some of these like bigger, more important topics. But excited that we're going to be getting some season 2 information basically next weekend. Should be pretty cool. Catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.